Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some router work on this red dragon, also known as the Welsh Dragon. This appears on the Welsh flag. I'm just going to do the dragon section. As always for me, I've literally just printed it out on standard inkjet paper, and I've stuck it down to some recycled wood. This would have started life as a side of a wardrobe or a chest of drawers or something. I always try and use recycled pine or any type of wood if possible. Literally stick it down in place, and I pop in some carbon paper underneath. This is well worn, this one. You want some nice fresh carbon paper, and literally just draw around it all with a pen or pencil. It takes a matter of 5 or so minutes to do. Once you've done all that, you can safely remove that, and you can use that template over and over again if you should want to. So there's our little design there. It's all nicely drawn out, ready to start routing out. I prefer just shading the areas of the pieces that you want to remove, or you can put crosses on or marks on, just some way of describing it, because you will go away, come back, and you'll start routing out that middle section. Well, obviously that's the end of your project. We just want to remove all the grey area. And for that, as always for me, CNC bits to do all our lines. These are just cheap eBay, Amazon. They come in different degrees, 20s and 30s. We're going to use 15s today, and that literally is just the angle of that cut on the end. You see the degree of that. There we go. So it's nice and spiky, nice and sharp, and we will use this just to do all our inset. So we're removing all the grey area, remember, of the lines. Now they do have a small shaft on them, a 3.175mm. They will fit a Dremel if you're going to use a Dremel with a Dremel attachment, but for a 1/4 inch router you need an adapter collet, which is basically just a little tube like that with a couple of little splits in it, and you will place 6.35mm, that one. You place your CNC bit in the end like so, and then pop that into your router, your 1/4 inch router, and you're good to go. So we will use this to do all our line work just inside the line there. So we're going to go all the way around them sections and all around these, basically everything we see. Nice steady process. Once we've done all that, we'll simply remove the CNC bit, and I will pop in one of these little end milling bits. These are fantastic for clearing out. They clear the side of the walls as well as the bottom section. I certainly have no issues with these. eBay and Amazon again. We're going to have to get a fairly small one for these smaller areas, and that is just a simple case of removing the CNC bit and sliding that in there like so. We set it to the same depth. I work on 3mm. I made a little gauge like this. You can purchase gauges. So 3mm, it's basically what I call that number 2 there, the same thickness as your CNC bit, or obviously it's going to be the same as your end milling bit. So that's plenty for me, for what I need. And we will pop that in there, set it to the same depth, 3mm, and literally just start removing all the grey sections. And then we'll give it a quick little tidy up with a Dremel, with a little engraving bit on. We'll show you that further down the road. And then we'll decide if we're going to put paint in all this, sand it down, or we'll find some resin, colour it red, and just pour it all in. And then we might just sand it down, or just leave it as it is. We'll see how we go on and how we feel regarding the project. Okay, let's pop our little CNC bit into our adapter collet. Just take that out of there. We'll slot that in there like so. We'll set it to 3mm, which will be that one there, and we can start routing this one out. Right, we've made it all the way round with the CNC bit. You can more or less see from there. Now it looks a bit rough and ready, and some woods are worse than others, but I've noticed this one today, it's quite dusty. So if you're seeing there, as you're routing about, you think, well, that's not so good. But it's just compacted with dust. If you've got a small little bit, you can actually just clear that out there, like so. That's only the dust. So don't be worried about that if you can't get it. Doesn't look too crispy for you. I can assure you, when we start going around with the CNC bits, the end milling bits should I say, and start clearing all this out, you might find yourself just going around with a pencil and just shading those areas that you want to remove. But you know for a fact, it's going to end up looking like that. You can see I've cleared that one out already with the CNC bits, and these smaller sections have all been done with the CNC bit and the claws and so on, like so. So we pop the end milling bit in. We need quite a small one. Obviously we need one that's going to fit into the gaps like so in there. These ones here that we haven't done. So we're going to go for a quite small one just to set us off. And it's just a simple case of removing your CNC bit. You'll get a lot more projects out of that. Nice new bit today. That certainly cut no problem. We pop this one back in there. What's that little marker? They do come without that little barrier thing on, so don't be concerned if you can't find those. And we'll set it to 3mm again. We've already removed some of this, like we just said, so we can just set it to the same depth as that. And basically start removing all the innards now. We'll do that next. Right, you can see from that we nearly made it all the way around. When I say nearly, I actually thought I'd done my CNC bits, I'd done the end milling bits, everything was looking fine. You can see from that we've come out really nice. And the eagle-eyed of those among us, I missed out a complete section altogether there. So I'm literally going to have to put my CNC bit back on, and I'll just remove this bit off camera and then clear out that middle section and all. So I don't know what happened there, but we've missed a bit out, but we can certainly sort that out. So I'll do that quickly, and then when we come back it'll be time just to give it a general tidying up with an engraving bit on a Dremel. I'll show you that in a minute, and a bit of sanding down, and then we'll be on to the next stage. Right, I removed that little section there that got me caught out last time, so that's all nicely done now. And you can see from that everything else has come out no problem whatsoever. It's a little bit dusty at certain points, so when you're going around with your CNC bit and you think it's not cutting so good, but once you clear your dust out, blow it out with a little air compressor, or just get a little brush just to clear it out, and it'll come out a lot better than you actually think you're doing at the time. And remember, it's just recycled wood, so it's just cheap wood that would basically ended up on a tip somewhere. So recycled wood, you can't complain really. Now the next stage for me is literally I just want to go around all this with a flexi cable which attaches to the end of the Dremel. Cannot recommend these enough, absolutely fantastic. And I use little engraving bits inside. You'll get a packet of 30 off eBay for next to nothing, and they come with different round heads, ball heads, pointed heads. I'll just get one with a nice flat head on for me, and it's just enough to go inside all those little bits. Might just get it there we go. Just go inside all those little bits, just give it a nice tidy up. The ideal, because if you see there, look, you should be able to just to see your pencil line all the way around. Remember, we don't want to route out on the line. But when you go around with one of these, you can just angle it and just take it right up to the line. And any bits that you think were maybe not quite right, we'll be able to get inside and give it a nice cleaning out around the old piece. And then we use a bit of good old sandpaper and maybe a little mouse sander, just get rid of those lines and just get inside like so. So we'll give it a nice clean out and then we'll be on to the next stage. Right, that's enough sanding down and general tidying up for me. We can see from that we've got our shape and everything's all nicely done, and we've got no issues, nothing's fallen off, nothing's broken, even down to the little claws there, everything's still intact. So the next stage now is literally we're going to resin this one today. I've got some bit of resin left over. We're going to mix it up and basically just pour the whole thing with a nice red acrylic paint mixed in with the resin. And on this one we're going to overfill it slightly, and then we're going to sand it all down flush so it's proper inlaid, and then we're going to pour a clear resin over the top. So plenty of resin on this one. If resin is not your thing, you can put red paint in this, paint it all red, really put it in there, sand it all down nicely, and you'll have a nice crisp red dragon looking at you. And then you can put a bit of linseed oil on or spray a nice varnish over the top. So it's a personal preference thing. I'm just trying to use up a bit of resin I've got left over before it goes out of date on me, if it does. Just before that, with a lot of your woods, now I don't have a lot of issue with pine. You need to seal this. If it was painted or resin, we need to seal these side walls. You imagine this like straw with all these grains of running like that, and we've chopped into those. So these could all be open now, and when you put your paint in or resin, it could bleed into those side walls, and you just won't get the crispy lines that we're hoping for. There is wood sealers out there. You basically just brush it in, and once it's dried, it hopefully seals all that for you. Or I'll literally just spray a bit of varnish on. I've done projects like this before where I've not put nothing on, and I've had no issues. For a couple of seconds of spraying it, if any varnish it's going, I've got no preference. The first can I find, I will literally just go over this like so, 2 or 3 times, just to get into those areas that we've routed out, and then rotate it round. Make sure you get all the nice angles. We'll let this one dry, and I'll do it a couple of times, and hopefully that will just get in there nicely and seal all those side walls. Now, if we weren't going to sand it all flush, you could at least spray it as it is now, as if it was a finished project. And then when we put the resin in, we won't overfill it. So we will just fill up each section just nicely to the top. And then when it cures and sets, you'll have a little dip in it, and that would be your project finished once it's got a nice shine on it. But on this one, I want it proper inlaid, so it's all going to be sanded flush. So there's no boiled linseed on here. I normally put boiled linseed on all my projects. For those that's watched them before, you know I do. And varnish to finish. So on this one, the varnish is to seal inside those routed areas, and then it will be a resin to finish once we've sanded it all down. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll go and find ourselves some resin. Right, it's been an hour or so later. That's all nicely dried. If this was a finished project, you wanted to do 3 or 4 coats to get a nice shine on there, but hopefully that's been enough spray just to seal inside those walls and seal that back bit. That'll also help with any bubbles that want to pop up through the resin. Now the resin for me today is Vista one. I've used 3 or 4 different resins in the past, and they all basically do the same thing. Just check your resins. They're always a 2-parter, part A and part B. A being your resin, B being your hardener. On this one, it's a 1-to-1 mix. So whatever we use of the A, we need exactly the same amount of B. Some resins will be 2-to-1, 3-to-1. Some resins you'll weigh by volume. So you pour by volume, so same amount of each. Some you actually weigh off the same amount, or weigh off the 1 to 1, 2 to 2s, and so on. For mixing, I like to use these little party cups, beakers. You'll get a packet like that for next to nothing, and they're ideal. And I can just mark off how much I'm going to go for the A, and obviously we're going to do exactly the same amount for the B. So we'll pour that into there, and we'll pour that one into there, and literally I'll just mix the two together. They do say put it into a third container. Personally, it's not something I've never done, and something I've never had any issues with. And for mixing wise, back to the party game again. Just cheap plastic knife and forks. These are ideal for mixing because you can mix, and they have a nice scoop in the back. So if we're going to do this more gently, we could just scoop it in like so. And that's it. So right, colour wise, just cheap acrylic paints, nice bright red. It is the Welsh Dragon or Red Dragon, whichever you prefer. This looks more orange on the camera, but once you go out and get the natural light outside, we can guarantee you it is more red looking. So I'll just pour the amounts into there. Just be careful with your resins as well. I just remembered there. Some are for small pours like this, 3 to 4 millimeters thick, up to 1/4 inch, I do believe. You can also get a deep pour, which will take you to 2 to 4 inches. Don't go filling this halfway up and filling that halfway up and mix it together. You can get what they call a flash cure, and it's some kind of reaction with the chemicals of the two, and it will just flash cure and set basically in the beaker. I've only had it the once. So as you're stirring around, it will just crystallize on it, if that's the word, and will go solid. So I rather do small amounts. We'll pour some in, and if we need some more, we can always mix another small amount. You get a good half an hour each time to play with this, depending on the temperature. Right, so I'll just pop that in there for A, pop that in there for B, give it a nice mixing round with one of our plastic spoons, and when we come back, we can add our colour and basically start filling this one in. Right, there's all our resin nicely mixed. That's near enough what we want. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough to do this project, but as I said previously, a couple of minutes, you can soon mix some more and add to it. And we've got our little acrylic paint. It's just a case of popping some in. Don't go too crazy. Just enough to get it coloured up nicely, like so. And if you're not happy with it and you think you'll take a little bit more, you can certainly pop a bit more in. There is certain ratios as to 10% of this and what you should put in for the amount of resin you mix and all the rest of it. Personally, it's not something I've really bothered with. If I want it a little bit darker, I'll just go ahead and add a bit more in, like so. There we go. Give it a nice mix round. Just take your time, no panicking. You've got plenty of time, depending on how warm it is. You say you've got a good half an hour, 30 minutes with this, so there's no need to get carried away. Now remember with this one, and on previous projects, I normally just fill up, basically level with the routed out area. Then once it's cured, you get a slight little dip in, and this project would be finished. Remember, we've already sprayed our varnish on. But on this one, I want to actually overfill it slightly. You can put tape around there if you wanted to mask it off, or go through all the procedure of putting maybe hot glue all the way around to make a little barrier. There's no need for any of that. Just so you've got enough to slightly overfill it. And then once it's nicely cured, we're going to come with a sander and sand it all down so it's just full, solid, flush with the wood itself. And then we can either spray on some more varnish at the end, and that will be fine for this sanded down resin, or we'll see how much resin we've got left. There's a little bit left in there. We might get lucky and we'll have enough to pour resin over the complete piece and make it really pop. But for now, we're just going to leave it as it is. I'll just show you quickly on some smaller sections. You imagine this little bit here. And remember, put your gloves on, wear a nice mask. It can be quite irritable if you get it on your fingers. I just tend not to get it on my fingers if I can help it. But some people I know have really struggled with rashes and skins and sores. So ventilation, proper mask, and put your gloves on. Please don't follow my lead on this side of things. If I show the quick design, the first idea we're going to have would be just to literally fill those in like so. And you can basically just top them up a little bit more, and that would be the idea that we're going for, or an option that you could go for, should I say. But for us today, we are basically going to fill it all in. So it doesn't matter if we overspill onto the wood. Remember, that's not really going to affect us. We just want to get this in like so. So if we need to just pop that on there, and you can literally just pour it on like that. It's going to find those little holes. Don't overfill it. Don't make a big massive mound, because it does take some sanding down this. So just be a little careful. And we're just going to throw that in like so, all the way around, and we just fill it all in. You get the general idea for that. I'll quickly fill this in, and then when we come back, we'll put the lighter over the top. That's just going to help release all the bubbles, and then we'll put it to one side for 48 hours. We'll come back in a minute. Right, you can see from that, we gave it a nice covering. It looks a mess at the moment, but I'm hopefully, when we come to sand it all down, it'll all come nice and crystal clear for us as regards to the line work and stuff. So that's it for now. Just keep an eye on it. Get a little cocktail stick, you know what you see. I'll just help it around to get so. Make sure we get rid of those little air pockets in them corners. And that to me looks like nicely full now. As you can see from that. So everything's nicely gone over. Now we'll just keep an eye on it. We'll get a lighter or so. And every so often just skim over the top. And that will help those little air bubbles disappear like so. I prefer a little small lighter like that. I did go out and purchase a larger one. Just a little bit powerful, this one. So you've got to be a bit quick. You can't really see on camera, but I can guarantee you all those little bubbles have disappeared. And I'll come back in 5 minutes time and just skim over it again. So that's it. We'll just leave it for now. A good 48 hours. The smaller the bits you do, the longer it takes to cure, which is very strange. And I'll just get a nice tray, something like so. And we'll cover it over a couple of spots at either side, and that will do. And we'll come back in 48 hours, and then we can get onto the sanding down, and hopefully it should be a nice Welsh stroke red dragon underneath. We'll come back in 48 hours. Right, it's a couple of days later. We can see from that everything's nice and solid, and that's just enough to cover the full dragon piece. And hopefully when we sand it all down, it'll be nice and flush. And all these wooden areas that we've left behind after we've routed out the other sections, they'll be all nice and crispy. Now personally, with these kind of projects where we're sanding flush with the resin, I think personally this is the hardest section of the project. You will sand down, we'll use a mouse sander. We'll come in with a nice big belt sander, and we'll see how it's going. We might even a little play with a sander on a angle grinder at the end. But we'll see how we get on with the belt sander first. It takes a lot of sanding down, seriously, and all your papers will get chewed up and filled up, and you'll be replacing those regular. I'm just going to straighten with a 120 grit. I think there's an 80 grit on the belt sander, and we'll see how we go. But this personally, for me, is the hardest section to do so far. Okay, let's start sanding this one out. Well, that sanded down better than I thought. I literally just used the belt sander in the end, and it come off fairly easy. And you can see from that we've got our better lines, and everything's nice and flush. And that's just with a 120 grit sand on that. There is certain peoples, other peoples, they like to start off with an 80, 120, 240, 600, 1000, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and carrying on up. I personally just can't be bothered with all that. Quick 120 grit, get it all nice and smooth. And then we put our varnish or resin over the top, these colours will hopefully come right back at us. Now you can sand that down like so, or you could have just left it and poured the resin in and up to the top of the wood. There's different ways and you'll find one that suits you. Sometimes it's just nice to have a little change about. Now with these ones, you can literally just spray on some varnish over the top, 3 or 4 coats of that, and your little project will be finished. I've done that on previous videos. On this one though, we still have a little bit of resin left, so I'm literally going to go and mix them up, same as before with our A and B's, and we're going to pour it over the old piece and just let it run down the sides, and then we'll come back again and hopefully this little project will be finished. Let's go and find some resin, and we will literally just cover this one up. Right, it's video time again. Basically all we're going to do now is mix the same resin as we did for the red, and basically just going to pour it over the top so it covers the whole piece. You can mask these sides off if you wanted to. I just want it to run over the sides and drip underneath. Now for those drips, once they're set solid, I basically put painter's tape all the way around like so, right to the edge. This kind of stuff here. And when this resin is all nicely set, we'll turn this over and we will find driplets, the full length of this, all the way around. And it's just easier to get an air dryer, and we can warm this tape up and hopefully just peel it off, and all those drips will come off with it. Hopefully. That's the way I'm going to go with it today anyway. But if you don't want it to run over the side, you can basically get the same tape and literally just put a little lip on just to stop it running over the edges. Just something nice and simple. It wouldn't have to be too fancy. Just something like that. And you could make yourself a little lip to stop it going over if you were going to put it in a frame afterwards or something like that. But for me today, we're just going to pour a flood coat, as they call it, over the old piece. Now I'll mix the resin again as always. Remember, A and B into our 2 little containers, mix it nicely, and then when we come back, we'll basically be ready to flood coat this with nice clear resin. Make sure it's nice and level. I've actually got mine resting on a tray, a bit of cling film, nice CDs underneath. That just brings it to a nice height to allow me to go around with a spoon or with my gloves on obviously and keep clearing that side up. A little spirit level, make sure it's nice and level both ways, and we're good to go. I'll mix this up quickly and then come back and we can basically cover this one over. Right, there's all our resin nicely mixed up. Now I've not put anything on this wood. Some people like to spray it and seal it all first just to stop the bubbles coming through. I don't have a lot of trouble with pine, to be honest. And we're going to keep an eye on it, and we'll come back with our little lighter and we'll skim over the top just to make sure we've got no air bubbles. What we should have done basically when we put the red in was maybe seal the sides with that bit of clear resin before we added the red and filled the rest in. I do find on these end pieces it's better to seal those with something. Even though we sprayed them with the varnish initially, I still think it's not enough to give it a nice good coating on the side bit. So next time we'll remember, before we do the red, is to go all around the edges, and then obviously 48 hours later they will be nicely sealed, and then we can come with our top coat and brush it over the top. But it doesn't matter, it is what it is. And hopefully once this resin goes on, we should see those lovely red colours coming back, and I will show you outside in daylight, because I think looking at the camera it looks slightly orange tinge. So nothing fancy about this. Remember, put your gloves on, get a nice mask to wear, and get plenty of ventilation. Now I'm thinking I've got enough here for this. If not, we can soon mix some more up. So we're basically going to pour it all on like that. Nothing too clever. It looks quite bubbly at the moment, but we will remove all those, and we have plenty of time to mix some more up should we need it. I rather mix small batches myself than mix a full cupful and have leftovers. Plus also certain resins, this is only a thin coating resin or craft resin, you can only mix so much at a time. If you fill that up with resin completely, you could get a flash cure, where it just basically just cures and sets as you're doing it. Now for me personally, you could use a brush and brush this on. I'm just going to spread it about nicely like so. with the back of the spoon, or we can get another new spoon and use the opposite end. But you can hopefully see underneath there, the colours are really going to come through. And the little bit of resin we've put on, it's also going to darken that wood, as you'll see when we come back, when it's finally cured. So we don't need to treat anything. No boiled linseed oil on this one. People that watch my previous videos know I do like to use my boiled linseed oil. So we're literally going to do all this, take it slowly to the edge. Don't put it on too thinly, because as it cures and dries, you might find little sections where it's just shrunk up that much, like your wood's not covered. So that's why we do what they call a flood coat, where we basically gonna let it flood right over the edge. You can see from there, hopefully, how dark that wood's going. And I'm thinking we might have enough here on this one little pour, to be honest. We might get lucky, but eventually we are going to go over the edges. But if that's not your thing, remember, you could have taped this off just as easy, or built a frame around it, a little wooden frame, and filled it in afterwards once the frame's been done, and that would have secured the frame to the piece of wood, that is for sure. You can see what we're doing there, just spreading it around nicely. Take your time, there's no panic. You have a good half an hour to work with this, depending on your temperature. So we're more or less covered now. We will be going over the edge in a minute. There's also another thing you can do, is called doming, and that's where you make a little dome over the top, and you would basically just stop now as it's got right to the edge. And you might just get lucky enough that it won't run down the sides, and that would be your finished project. But as we're going to do a total flood coat, we're actually going to go over the sides in a minute. Like so. I'm doing this nice and steady. We've got plenty of resin on there. Look, there's plenty to play with, so I think we've definitely got lucky here, and we've got it in the one mix. Right, that's totally covered now, and you can see from that we've still got plenty to play with. So we're just going to start going over the edges, like so. Let it run over the edges, all the way around. Start filling those sides in, and as you go along, you will get your drips coming down, and you can go along with your spoon like so, and just keep gathering those up and filling the tops like that. Right, I'll come back in a minute, basically complete this off, and then we'll get a lighter and skim over the top, and then we'll put it to one side. Back in 2 minutes. Right, we've made it all the way around. We've gone all down the sides there. It's hard to show you without spilling it all, but we'll just keep going around with the little lip on the spoon there, and we can gather up any resin we want and just keep topping it on there like so. And it looks like we managed with that one mix here, so we're lucky with that way. It all seems to be nicely covered now, so it's just a simple case of going over with a lighter. I do prefer the small one like this, but on something like this one we can go for the big boy, and if you just skim over like so, and all those air bubbles will just disappear, no problem. And that's it, that's all we can do for now. I'll come back in 5 minutes again and scoop up those little driplets from underneath. So put it to one side, put a nice cover over the top. Any flies, any dust, they will find it, be like a magnet. And we'll come back in 24 hours, 48 hours, and we'll see what this finished project looks like. Right, it's been a good 24 hours later. That's all nicely set now, or cured. I will leave this for another day so to make sure it's solid, but hopefully you'll see from that we've got a lovely shine going down there. We will see better when we go back to the shed. That's all covered nicely. I've certainly had no issues with that. As we said previously, you can see all those little driplets there of all the resin that's run down the sides. Now it's just a simple case of removing all of that. Now you could get sander. I've seen people sand these down. Seems to be a lot of work. You might get lucky and go around with scraper and hopefully pop them off. But for me personally, this is only the second time I've done this with the tape. I'm just going to get an hairdryer and hopefully we'll go along, warm this up, and this should all peel off nicely. We'll do that now quickly. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. Now the hairdryer worked fine on the back. We've peeled all that off nicely, and you can see from there I've just routed out a nice slit in the back. That's ideal for hanging purpose. Plenty thick enough is that. And there is our finished piece. Really nice. You can see that lovely shine on the front there completely. Definitely had no issues with the front. If anything, maybe a little bit more on the side wouldn't have gone amiss. But remember, if you're going to put this in a frame and stuff, nobody's going to see that. Now you could literally just make a nice little simple frame. I've actually just found one in the bedroom. I have 3 or 4 of these kicking about. And I will cut that down to size if needed. And that would make a nice little finished frame like so. Or go to a charity shop. You can find pictures and frames for next to nothing. Making a frame is something I've never done yet, but we might see further down the line. So that would look nicely on there. Or if not, you could literally just hang it up as it is. And you can see how dark that wood's gone with that resin. And hopefully the colours, it's a lot darker in real life, as we say. You're not quite getting the proper colour on the camera. And there it is. This little project is finished. So it measures in at 8 inches by 12 inches roughly. It's on recycled pine. We routed out all the lines with our little CNC bits, and we did all the clear out with the end milling bits, and then we inlaid it all with a resin mixed with acrylic paint, nice red, and then we flood coated the full piece with resin afterwards. And that's it. Just a nice little fun project. Welsh Dragon, or a red dragon, routed out on recycled pine and inlaid with resin. Thank you very much for watching. Give it a go and just enjoy yourselves.